Thank you very much for coming today to the Landscape Show. I'm going to be talking to you about water sensitivity in urban design. And it's something that's really passionate and close to my heart. As a qualified horticulturalist from Burnley, Melbourne University, it's something that we actually learnt 13 years ago. Well, I learnt 13 years ago in university, and it's something that's becoming more and more prevalent as the years go on. So thank you everyone. I'm Inge from Inge Jabara Landscapes. You might remember me from the TV series The Block on Channel 9. And again, I'm here to talk to you about water sensitivity in urban design. So let's start with the top line, WSUD. What does that mean? So water sensitivity in urban design is obviously talking about and demystifying what we can do better to use our stormwater that's hitting our roof lines, our car parks, our major urban centres, and what are we doing with that water once it goes down into the river streams. So guys, just looking into the audience today, can anyone tell me what happens to that stormwater once it hits the car park? Where does it go? We all know where it goes, so someone shout from the audience, where does it go? Come on, Ash, I'm looking at you. Down the drain. So we don't do anything with it, do we? We obviously know that when we go to the bathroom, we know that that all goes down into the treatment, down to the treatment plants, and that gets screened and that gets treated into the appropriate manner into C-class potable water, and then it gets sent into our river, into our ocean network. But what happens with stormwater is basically nothing at the moment unless something has actually been built into the urban design of that particular landscape. So I just want to talk to you about what actual pollutants happen when the water hits that car park or that urban design. So someone shout to me now, when the rain hits that water, when the rain hits the car park, what is that water going to collect and then just discharge into our river systems and networks? So what is that water going to collect when it does that? Sorry? Rubbish, exactly, rubbish. What's another one? Grease, petrol from cars, anything that's basically come off. You can also have liquid, soap suds and things that have come off your car as well. Will go onto that roadway, or picture a car park, and it will be collected by that water and then sent down into that river system if it's not appropriately screened. Now, one other thing that we would call as a third tier of pollutant, as it were, is actually seed bodies as well. So everyone's probably seen on the highway tussock grass, weed systems that are not endemic to a particular area. You can also have weeds that collect on those roadways as well, and they go basically straight down into our river network or into our ocean network, and that's why we end up with, you know, weed bodies or big problems with weed species in our river systems. Everyone knows what I mean by that? When I say we have weeds in our river systems, everyone's seen those weeds in our river systems. Okay, so this is why this is a really important topic to me. Now, on the screen behind me, I have an example of what we would do to filtrate that water prior to it entering our river system. So this is a really simple civil job. We've obviously got the curb and channel there, and we have on the right-hand side of the screen there, you can see some distribution channels where the water actually hits the car park or the road network, falls down into, fall being obviously fall, falls down into that particular area body in the middle, and it hits a number of layers of different filtration areas. So the first one being the plant bodies. So we've got grasses and trees as that first filtration network. The second one is going to be different types of grades, so sizes of rock system, potentially even a weed mat, depending on what type of system is being used. And then lower down, it's going to have a sand filtration bed. So as that water goes down, it's obviously going to, we're going to get rid of the rubbish. So that's why, unfortunately, we see a lot of rubbish in these types of setups, because that's catchment. But that's a good thing. We want that to happen. Then the water goes through the soil profile and removes certain finings, certain greases, rubbish, and then further down in the sand filtration bed, it will then remove the things like weed seeds. Before it goes down the drain, everyone can see the drain at the bottom there, and then down into our river network. So that was a really good example of a big urban version. This one's a really good example of just a standard residential built-up area. Everyone knows how tight it is, you know, South Yarra, near Chapel Street there, all these really heavily built-up areas. Richmond is another one, where there's not really an opportunity to put something massive like this, is there? So this is another really great example of what we can do to just have a simple, easy filtration bed where the water will be captured through that drain and then down into the river network or whatever system that particular wastewater has been connected to. Excuse me, I'm just going to take a sip of water. Another one I just wanted to say was, see on the left-hand side, we can actually make these things look really pretty. And does everyone know the reason why we have to add plants into this particular network? Yell out if you know. So we have to have plants in this particular ecosystem of filtration because plants' root systems add a level of filtration system and cleaning and breaking down of that particular water, as well as obviously uptaking. So this is a really fun graph. Everyone looking at this graph is probably going to look at it and go, what are these three bubbles? I have no idea. So I'm going to explain them to you. So on the right-hand side, can everyone see the grey bubble? Nod your heads if you can see the grey bubble. Awesome. So sustainable stormwater management. I'll start with this. These three bubbles, when they go together, form a perfect, harmonious way to deal with our stormwater management. So on the right-hand side, starting with the grey, is the sustainable management of our stormwater. So things like rain gardens, wicking beds, ways that we can distribute the stormwater into a filtration system before it hits our network, similarly to those examples that I just showed you before. The next one is livable and greener urban areas. Now, we all know in the landscaping industry, we are the best. We create green environments all day. Nod your heads, guys. Yes, we create green gardens and green urban areas all day, every day. But it's the integration of these green areas that do a number of great things for our stormwater, and I'll explain what that is. So making sure when we're doing an urban design, we're adding in as much planting space, canopy trees, filtration systems of our water as we possibly can, and wherever square inch we can squeeze it into, we need to be squeezing it into. And that does a couple of things. So everyone here think about a really large car park. Has everyone got that picture in their head? Potentially think of a large shopping centre car park. Think about those couple of trees that they have sort of lined up between each bay. That's obviously not enough. And what we can be doing is creating larger beds like that first slide I showed you. So larger systems like this, and that does a couple of things. So obviously it reduces, It reduces the microclimate, the heat microclimate of that car park. Hands up if you know what a heat microclimate is. So a microclimate in general. Cool. Okay, so for those of you that don't know, it's when you're standing out on a baking hot car park or a large area, tarmac, and it's really, really hot. But then you go stand in the shade and it's cooler during a hot day. That's the microclimate of those zones, and that's dictated by what is surrounding those areas. So why I'm talking about that is the more livable, greener spaces that we have, the less heat we are applying to that zone. And if it rains, we're obviously going to be sending cooler water into our river network, not hot water. Hot water destroys certain plant species, fish life, and certain microbes that are really important to our river systems and stormwater network and our water networks. On the far left-hand side, the blue bubble, reduction in potable water usage. Now, potable water meaning your drinking water. we're all guilty of washing our cars on the weekend, and we're all guilty of washing our cars either at the wash bay or on the driveway and letting it all wash down the drain. But we're also guilty of, filling up our ponds, our swimming pools, different water bodies we have around the house with our potable water usage. So what if we could have something at the home network, as in our residential home, where we're capturing that water? Everyone has sort of that 3,000 to 5,000 litre tank. That's something, but it's probably not enough to do a lot of things. But we need to be looking at ways where we can capture that stormwater off our urban design or our house, capture that water and then use it for things like washing our cars, filling up our ponds, or washing the bike from the weekend, things like that, the dog even. There are things that we can do around the house where we don't have to use fresh water, we can use that recycled water on site. And those three bubbles all go together to create this demystifying of the water sensitivity in urban design. And they're all things that are really, really important to the functionality of our ecosystem and our stormwater system and network. I just want to talk to you guys now about stormwater detention tanks. Hands up in the audience if you know what a stormwater detention tank is. Awesome. Cool. All right. A stormwater detention tank. Now, for the landscapers out there, I need you guys to listen up. They are coming now with all the new permits for subdivisions, and they are putting these detention tanks in the front gardens of these properties in small setups, 2-lot subdivisions, right up to the really big stuff like we have outside the Caulfield Racecourse here. And these detention tanks are created for a particular reason. Does anybody know what that reason is, apart from Viking Plastics team in the crowd? No? Right? I'm going to explain. So the reason is that we have so much stormwater being captured on our hard surfaces, like our roofs, again, car parks, keep saying car parks, our car parks, and our landscape surfaces, like our pathways, pergola roofs, things like that. We have so much water being captured, and the water volume coming off that particular site, whether it be a residential or an urban design, and when that water hits the network, so the pipe network, guys, the stormwater pipe network, the volume is too heavy to hit that system, and it creates a rush, or you get backflow, so it starts to come up in other areas or other drains. So these stormwater detention tanks, I'm seeing them a lot more in our landscape projects. They're coming across. They're big, usually 32,000 litre, 10,000 litre detention tanks sitting in the front garden. Usually there's a couple of 100 mil just below soil level, and us as landscapers need to deal with that in terms of an aesthetic finish off, make sure there's a manhole pit to service it. But it's going to capture that water, have it sitting in this basically tank underneath, and then it's going to slowly drip feed. I don't have a pointer on this, but can everyone see where it says flow regulator on the right-hand side of the screen? So then it slowly drip feeds back into the network. And so during that 1 in 100 deluge, or even just a heavy deluge in general, it's going to go back into the network slowly. Now, the one thing that we're all forgetting here, we might be forgetting, you guys probably think this already, but the one thing that we're forgetting here is when the water goes into our network at a high volume or flow rate, everyone, hands up if you've seen that pipe gushing out water down at Port Phillip Bay or into the Yarra River during a heavy deluge. Hands up in the audience if you've seen that. Cool. So when that water is gushing out, I'm using the word gushing out at a high rate of knots, it's actually doing a lot of damage to that river network, that water network, or that beach. So everyone's seen that erosion down on Port Phillip Bay, where the water comes out the pipe, it erodes the sand and soil, or the sand rather, and the bank starts to pull back. So we need to be reducing that flow down so that it's not creating so much damage to our networks. And that's what a stormwater detention tank does, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I'm just going to talk to you guys about some case studies. So this is a VCon project at 535 Royal Parade Parkville. I can't take credit for the landscape, I didn't do it. But I'm going to talk to you guys about some really great resolutions to what I've just been talking about in the residential and the commercial space. What is this on the screen? I hear you say. Okay, this is a stormwater detention tank manufactured by Viking Plastics. And this is a really cool thing. I know you guys are like, what are we looking at on the screen here? But this is a really cool thing. It is a 32,000 litre tank that has been custom made for this project to capture the water retained off this site and then slowly drip it back down into the stormwater network. Now, everyone see the two holes? So the top hole, A, and the bottom hole, B. They're two holes that marry up with two tanks. So there's actually two of these side by side, and they connect in perfectly together. The top hole, can everyone see the top hole at the top? That's a manhole so that it can be serviced. So this is a really big example of that detention tank going into a large commercial setting. And then into the basement car park behind the wall, and then the manholes sitting at the top are in an appropriate functional area where they can get to be serviced. Another case study, Raingardens. So this one's in Notting Hill. So Raingardens. Now, Hans, I know you guys will already know this. When you're building a rain garden nowadays, we all see that note on the plan, and we're generally doing some Besser blocks with an open bottom or a filtration bottom, and then we're waterproofing the inside. Nod your heads if you know what I'm talking about there, right? We're doing Besser blocks, we're core filling them, we're waterproofing the inside. Hey presto, we have a really expensive rain garden that takes a lot of time to install. And it doesn't look very nice because we've got to get it rendered on the outside or tiled. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. Nod your heads. Okay, good. So this is a really great product where the guys at Viking Plastics have actually come up with a resolution here, and they're making an already prefabricated rain garden ready for you guys on a truck, ready to be installed, and it just sits in place at a customised size for you. They're not an off-the-shelf product. So this is just a quick photo of their, I may have just pushed auto because that's generally what I do. But there's a couple of them being delivered to this particular site on a flatbed truck, craned off. The plastic is already in a colour, a lovely grey colour, because we all know we have to finish the outside, as I said before. And then they're in situ in the garden. So hands up if you think that looks good. Come on, guys, come on, give me a little bit, come on. Yeah, good, okay. I think that looks like a really cost-effective, easy to install resolution to a rain garden system that I have seen, and I genuinely mean that, so far. Instead of building those Besser block systems or those other systems that we've been previously working with. And you know those other systems guys, we generally get a call back in that 12-month period where the builder says it's leaking out the front, what do we do? Or that old school one where these planter boxes guys, we're the first ones to get the call back to say, the planter box is leaking into the garage, what do we do? Nod your heads if you know what I'm talking about there. Right, this is the resolution. These are fully lined, there's no seam line except for where it meets the discharge point at the bottom, and that gets appropriately plumbed in. And then we have the rainwater system coming into the top, some nice plants there to do the filtration, and the rest is history and looking beautiful. So what do the guys at Viking Plastics do? They do planter boxes, plastic planter boxes. They do plant box liners, so they can do a really great plastic liner that's not going to break on you and you're not going to have a defective problem down in the basement. They do the rain gardens, rain garden liners. So if you have a different type of style that's been specified, they can just line the inside for you guys, and then you're going to have that peace of mind that it's not going to fail in the landscape. They do planter water tanks, wicking beds, raised garden beds, and stormwater detention tanks, as I just mentioned before. So this is just another really cool example of these planter boxes that are sitting in the landscape there. We did a project for the Western Hotel, and we also did a project for Aurelian, the hospital down in Mornington Peninsula, Ballura Hospital. I wish I'd known about this product when we did this, because the planter boxes we had installed were really, really heavy. The crane we used was massive, and these are a lightweight system. All right, so that's just an example of the plant box liner. Guys, ponds. I looked at this and went, ponds, oh my gosh, we can just get one made and just put it in there as opposed to having to line it, do a water system inside and having it leak. The guys at Viking Plastics can also do curves as well. Again, anything customised that you guys might need to do your landscaping application, they'll be able to do it. I've been to their warehouse. It's massive, and it deals with really, really, really big stuff and really small stuff as well. So doesn't matter how big or small your commercial or residential project is, provide Viking Plastics the customised option to your, or tell them what you guys need to achieve, and they'll come up with a really suitable resolution for you with the right dimensions in conjunction with your water engineer that you're working with on the project. The answer for Viking Plastics is always yes. Tell them what you guys need and they'll fix it for you with whatever you need with regards to those items that we just talked about. Talk to the guys there about some rain gardens, some water detention tanks, wicking beds, even just a pond liner, and they'll be able to help you guys out.